Hi, my name's Ruth and I'm an alcoholic. And my sobriety date is June 13th, 1994, and I'm 65 years old. And what I hope to do today is to give you a message of hope and understanding of alcoholism. Now, before I actually get into what it was like and what happened, I want to maybe clear up something. Since I was 20 years sober, a lot of people have been asking me why I can't just have one drink. It wouldn't kill me to have one drink now. You've been sober for quite a while. But I'll tell you, I'm a real alcoholic. And if I drink, I'm going to die. And I know this to be true. Now, if I had one drink tonight, I won't die tonight. But I won't just have one drink. Tomorrow I'll have two, and by the end of the week, I'll be drinking the way I was before I got into a 12-step program. And my death wouldn't be fast, it'd be slow, painful, and lonely. And you will hear from my story that, drinking was everything to me. I would only think about the drink in my hand, where I was getting the next one, and where I had the bottles hid all over the house. So nobody would be with me if I was still drinking today. So what it was like, I grew up in a house, a home of issues. Just a lot of problems there. And ever since I was 5, I knew I didn't want to be in that house. I didn't want anyone to know what was going on in that house. I took up running. Parents put me in track and field, trained for the Munich Olympics actually. So I got to run before and after school and all the weekends. Anything to get me out of that house. I'd go to my friends' places and meet their parents and see how their house was, and my house was nothing like that. So I was really ashamed of my family, of that whole, I just call it the house, really ashamed of them. And I started to get fearful of what other people were going to find out about what was going on in that house. When I was 13, I had my first drink, which was my first drunk. A friend invited me over, actually told me to come over, and we split a bottle of lemon gin. I was so sick. I was in the bathroom throwing up. I had to stay at their house that night, and the next morning I could hardly move, and I swore I'd never drink again. That didn't happen, or I wouldn't be here today. But it took a while before I drank again. And I didn't drink because I wanted to celebrate anything. You see, my mom had a baby that day, my third little brother, and I was so resentful, so angry that they would bring another baby into that house with all those issues. A house of no love. Why would they bring another kid into that? So I guess I found out early that anger and resentment and jealousy kind of went with me all the way through till I got into a 12-step program. I left that house when I was 15. You see, I went from the fire to the frying pan. I got married at 15. My son was born 2 days after my 15th birthday. I was 16. And my daughter was born when I was 17. So a lot of people said I was a kid. They were right. I was a kid having kids, bringing them up. My husband was also a kid. He was only 18 when we got married. He, though, was a drinker. I didn't know if he had a drinking problem because all his friends drank. All the guys drank. I didn't drink. I'd have the odd glass of Matus, if anybody can remember what that was. But I had to stay sober. See, I had these two little people that I absolutely loved, unconditionally, my son and my daughter. They were everything in my life. I didn't know love until they came into my life. But I left that husband when I was 20. And when I left, I didn't have any self-esteem or self-confidence left. See, that marriage also had issues, just like that house. So I ended up not knowing who I was, full of fear, and out there on my own with two little kids in the early 70s. Not a good place to be. First husband, he wouldn't let me finish school, so I didn't have an education. So I ended up jumping from relationship to relationship, and each relationship was only for security. I needed security for my kids. I needed to know that they would have clothes on their back and food on the table. I didn't love the people that I had the relationships with. Maybe I thought I did, but I was very confused about what sex and love were. To me, they were intertwined, the same thing. And I would go from relationship to relationship, none of them lasting more than 2 years. Because I was really afraid that by the time I got to 2 years, that those guys, those men, would figure out who I was. And you see, I didn't know who I was. I was this terrified little girl inside, running from everything. And if they tried to figure out who I was before I knew who I was, that was the most horrific thought that I had all those years that I was jumping from relationship to relationship. It wasn't a really happy place to be. I could look like I was happy. I could pretend to be whatever I needed to be depending who I was with. When I came into the 12-step programs, I heard that people say they used to carry around a suitcase with different masks, and we could put these masks on. It sounds funny right now when we're in a pandemic and have to wear masks. But I could put on this face if I had to go see my family, or a different face if I had to go be with friends or with teachers at school. But none of them were me because I didn't know who I was. Finally, when I got to 28, in another relationship, I should say this. With those relationships, I moved. I moved my kids from Ontario to British Columbia, from the Kootenays to the island. My kids kind of got the feeling they were army brats. We moved so much. So they were really upset later, I found in life, because we had to move so much. But we came back to Ontario and I met another man and we lived together 2 years. And then I got married. And I married this man because he was learning a trade and I knew he loved my kids. So I thought, okay, I didn't know if I loved him because I still didn't know what love was. But I figured it would be good for me to marry this man. Now, over the years up until then, I did finally get to finish my high school and do some more education, but with him it was better. I got to go back and get my ECE. I opened a daycare center. I was feeling like I was becoming part of life, but inside I was dying. It wasn't good inside of me. We stayed married 13 years. We were down in the city near Toronto and we moved up to the Kawarthas. And in the Kawarthas, in my early 30s was when when alcohol started to really catch up with me. Up to that point, I would have got drunk a few times and I would have drunk a little bit and I probably could have stopped. But by the time I was in 32 to 34, I knew. Every time I'd have one drink, I'd have to have more. I couldn't just have one drink. I didn't know I was an alcoholic, didn't understand it. But drinking helped me go to sleep. My kids left home. They went off to school, work, and I really went downhill. I think having them leave the house, it's not their fault, it's nobody's fault, but I had more time on my hands, and drinking became the most important thing in my life. I found I couldn't go to sleep unless I drank. I was living in constant fear of I didn't know what. I know that I put triple locks on doors. We had an Irish Wolfhound. We got a Bouvier because I was always so terrified. Over the last 5 months of my drinking, feeling so hopeless and helpless, I ended up every night falling asleep in the bathroom. I kept a pillow and a blanket in there because I knew that I was going to go get sick, throw up, and then end up just rolling over and just sleeping in the bathroom. My husband used to kid that, why did we need a big bed? Because I was never ever in it. I was always sleeping in the bathroom. My last drink was really bad, and it was actually at Ride for Sight. And we came home and my husband said to me, you have to get help or I'm going to see that you get locked up. And I'm sure over the years, over the 6-year period that was really bad with my drinking, he had said stuff like that before. I know I tried a couple of times to kill myself and he had offered to help once. So I don't know why this time I took him serious. But all I said to him was to go pick up our daughter who lived in Fenelon Falls at the time, and she'll find me somebody to talk to. And she did. She came out. I was so drunk I couldn't look up a phone number in the phone book. I was so drunk I couldn't dial a number on a rotary phone. So if you're young, that's a phone. You used to have to phone. It's not like today. So she came, she found me something, she phoned, and I talked to this man. And I must have talked to him for 30 minutes. And over those 30 minutes, he asked me if I had a problem with alcohol. And I said to him, I don't know, because I didn't know I had a problem with alcohol. He said there was this place I could go where they help people not drink. And I remember saying, hold on, covering up that phone and saying to my daughter, they got this place. They're going to help me not drink. Do you think I should go? Oh my gosh, she's like, go! You would need to go here. So she took down the information. He said there's a meeting on Monday night. He gave me the address. She wrote it down. Told me that I couldn't miss the people there. There'd be a bunch of people outside drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes. So I would find this place. 30 minutes we talked. I laughed, I cried, my daughter laughed and cried with me. And I guess I said goodbye to the man, because at one point I hung up the phone. And when I hung up the phone, I was stone cold sober. And I've never needed or wanted a drink since. I don't know what that was called. I was sure I was crazy, so I thought that was part of my craziness. But on the Monday, my husband and I went to that meeting. And sitting there, I don't remember a lot, but I remember someone saying to keep an open mind. So I sat there, listened. They were telling stories about drinking, and they were funny. They were funny stories. These people laughed about this problem of drinking, having an alcohol problem. I remember once laughing, and really laughing. It was a real laugh. It wasn't the fake laughs that I'd been doing for so many years. This came from my belly, and it was true. That I really thought, oh, I think I belong here. On the way home, my husband said, what do you think? And I said, my God, I'm an alcoholic. And he looked at me. He knew I was an alcoholic. I said, but that means I'm not crazy. Maybe I'm still a little bit crazy, but I'm not crazy. I'm just an alcoholic. And those people in that room said, all I have to do is not drink today, and I'm going to be okay. They're going to teach me how to be okay. And I said, he asked me if I was going to go back. I said, oh, I'm going back. I have to go back to find out what these people have done. And he says, well, what about God? And I said, well, because we heard that word. And I said, I don't think that's going to be important. And it can't be important, see, because I didn't believe in God. I hated the whole concept of God because he wasn't there when I was in that house. He wasn't there when I was growing up. So I really didn't have any kind of belief system. But I kept going to these meetings. And I think the second week, I can't be sure, third week, I ended up in this little room with this small table, and it was called a discussion meeting. I'd only before that been to speaker meetings. And around this table, there were 8 people, and there was over 100-year sobriety around that table. And I thought, man, these people know what they're doing. I got to stay with these people and find out how come they're laughing, how come they're joyful. They said, be joyful and free. So I stayed. And there was this old guy, this long-timer, they called him, or old-timer. He had 37 years. I didn't believe him at all. I thought he was lying for sure. Who could not drink for 37 years? But he sat me down before a meeting started. And he says, there's a few things I'm going to tell you that you're going to have to do here. I can't remember everything, but there's some that stand out. He says, I'm a farmer. He says, I got no education. He says, really, I came in here as a bum. He says, I can't read very well. He says, I don't know if you have that problem. He said, but we do a lot of reading in this room and a lot of talking. And he says, there may be words in these books and these papers that you can't pronounce. And if you find one, say the word watermelon. And I went, oh my God, he didn't know me. How did he know that until grade 4 I went to speech therapy? How did he know that in grade 4 they told me that I was dyslexic? How did he know that? This was the first time in my life that I didn't have to pretend that I knew things. I didn't have to fake my way through reading something, and they were not going to judge me in this room. I felt relief. I could have cried when he said that. I could cry now when he said that to me. He said, and we're going to have to build your recovery on a solid cement foundation. And I remember shaking my head, not knowing what the heck he was talking about. He said, imagine you build a house on a bed of sand. It's the whole bottom sand. And a great big rainstorm came through. What would happen to the house? And I said, I guess it would fall apart because it can't stand on nothing. And he said, so it's the same with recovery. If you build your recovery on sand, you'll go back drinking. And I said, I don't want to go back drinking. I knew I didn't want to do that. He said, so you're going to build it on cement. He said, and that way no person, death, no anybody, anything, any institution can come along and nothing will make you drink. Do you want that? And I said, I wanted that more than anything, because I didn't want to go back to that crazy. I didn't want to have that feeling inside. Not that I still didn't have fear and concern and no self-worth when I got here at 2 weeks, but I liked what I was seeing. He said, you're going to learn forgiveness. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to forgive that house. He has no idea where I come from. And he says, you have to learn forgiveness, because forgiveness will give you freedom. Freedom from anger and resentment, jealousy, control. And I'm thinking, again, he's reading my mind. How's he know that I'm angry and I'm resentful and all those things? He says, and your life will get better. He says, you're going to have to listen. And he says, you got to listen to learn, so you can learn to listen. That didn't even make sense to me then. He says, we take the cotton out of our ears and we put it on our mouth and we listen. And if you listen to the people in this room, you're going to learn how to have a life like you never thought you ever could have. So I said, okay. He says, and you're going to change your attitude. He says, you won't have an attitude of poor me, this happened to me, or blame, the attitude of blame. You're going to get an attitude of gratitude. And when you have an attitude of gratitude, you will not have to drink. And that has stuck with me for almost 27 years. When I feel grateful, the last thing I would ever think about is drinking. So I know that to be true. He said, you're going to have to do a few things. You have to do these steps. I saw them, they said them, I didn't understand them. I told him that. I said, I don't know what that is. He says, well, you're going to get a sponsor. We're going to get you a sponsor. And that lady is going to help you go through those steps. And your life's going to change. My life changed. Today, what I have in my life, I have that son and daughter. We're close. We have a relationship that I didn't think, it took time, but I didn't think it'd be where it is today. I love those two like I did when they were tiny little babies. Those two gave me 5 grandchildren. They ranged from 19 to 24. They'd never seen this grandmother have a drink. They would come to my house, we'd laugh, we'd play games, hide and seek in the dark, and those kids can see that you can have fun without drinking. And that was really important, because everybody else I know drinks. So I have had the opportunity to show them something different. I have my own business today. I get to work with people. I'm a Jin Shin Chichu practitioner. I love what I do. The man that brought me into the rooms, who said you have to get help, he and I got divorced 13 years. We were married 13 years in the program, but we got divorced because, see, no person, place, or thing was going to take away my sobriety or my serenity. And I was growing, and we grew apart, is what happened. But believe it or not, 10 years ago, we got back together. And our life is really good. We agree to disagree, which we never could have done before. He knows that helping other alcoholics is the #1 thing in my life. We open the doors to alcoholics all the time. We, ever since I came in almost 27 years ago, we started having game nights. And there were 11 of us that came in at the same time, and we'd get together and play cards, and we'd have a few long-timers come in, and they would start to teach us things while we were playing. Because they said, you don't have to be glum to be sober. You're not going to be boring to be sober. You're going to have fun. If you come, we're here to help. And I really, truly hope that if you are having a problem with alcohol, or if someone you love is having a problem with alcohol, that you'll reach out. This pandemic is killing people. And from the bottom of my heart, I wish you will pick up the phone like I did that one night and come and find us, and we'll help you. Thank you.